What is good, everyone? This is your host, Deanna Radulescu with Label Free Podcast. To live your best life, you must live label free. As always, bring incredible guests from all over the world, so sit back, relax, and tune in. My next guest is an author, a humorist, a songwriter, internationally produced playwright, award-winning optioned screenwriter and performer, also a former blogger for the Huffington Post. Her plays and musicals have been staged across the U.S. and U.K. Please welcome Ava Moon. Ava, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be here.
Delighted to have you there. That's quite the list of things that you've done.
What can I say? It's what I do. I just have to keep making things.
Yeah, no, well, first let's I want to ask where the purple hair came from because I love it.
Oh, thank you. Well, purple's always been my favorite color, and I just started doing it at least 10 years ago. I started going with the purple, and so people just kind of associate that with me. It was blue for my son's wedding recently, but it's gone back to purple now.
Yeah.
And it sort of expresses my spirit.
Absolutely. I love it. So those of you that are listening and not watching on YouTube, her hair is a beautiful color of purple, and I absolutely love it. And she's wearing a matching purple shirt. So if you're only listening to this, you got to hop over to YouTube and check her out because she is just glowing. So I want to know, aside from, I know what the other things are, but what is a humorist?
Well, it's connected with the blogging and with my other writing work. Usually a humorist is defined as a comedian who's been dead for 100 years. But mostly humorist is associated with written humor rather than like a stand-up comic. Or
I gotcha, because I've never heard that term before. So I don't even know where to start. So you, an option screenwriter and performer. So you are an artist of all different calibers and backgrounds.
I was. Well, I still am. But things have changed for me and over the last 10 or so years. I was primarily a performer and musician. I've been in bands. I've had my own band. I did one-woman shows with my music. I was kind of a cabaret singer who flirted with the audience and wore, short little cocktail dresses and high heels and, the whole thing. And I had a lot of fun with it. About 10 or so years ago, I learned that I carried a genetic mutation that gave me an 87% chance of breast cancer.
Oh, no.
55% chance of ovarian cancer. And I had inherited from my mother, who was dying of cancer for the same reason at the time. So I was faced with a sort of a heart-rending choice to do preventive surgeries. And in the space of 3 months, I had a total hysterectomy and a double mastectomy, all while trying to help care for my mother. And at that time, I was happily wearing the label of cabaret singer, performer, artist,
Yeah,
stage sparrow. I mean, whatever. I was out in the public, and all of a sudden, I was faced with, devastating physical changes that made me feel like I couldn't wear those labels anymore. That I couldn't. My life was over. My performing life was over. I didn't want to add mastectomy girl to my persona. So I had to do a lot of soul searching at that time to figure out who I was going to be.
Yeah.
Going forward from that, because I didn't think I would ever. I stopped writing, I stopped singing, I stopped performing. None of it, and I didn't know what was going to happen.
Yeah.
So I started doing a lot of soul searching, and I ended up writing a song, and it was a song about. It was just for myself. I had always been writing songs to entertain audiences, but this is a song I wrote just for myself about how it felt to lose my former self.
Yeah.
And it was called "Where Are You Now, My Dancing Girl?" And I played it for my husband, who while he was very supportive, he didn't really understand what it felt like for me to be losing
Yeah, the parts of you
The
that's a
things
woman.
that the woman part of me, the
Yeah,
whole, how can you be a woman if you don't have your woman part?
right.
And that song kind of brought him on board. He finally understood. And I wrote another song, a more humorous one called Ta 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 Ta's. Then I started to get my old mojo back in a different way. And I wrote a one woman show about this whole experience that I had gone through called The Mutant Diaries Unzipping My Jeans. And it gave me a new focus. I had been entertaining people for a long time, but
Yeah.
now I was entertaining, but also helping
Yeah, for sure.
and showing. And I went to oncology conferences and did my show, and I did it for Macmillan Cancer Research in London,
Wow.
and it really helped me get through that time. And I've been thinking about the topic of your podcast, this label free thing, and I realized that going through this experience, this sort of hard time when I had to do so much soul searching, I switched from giving myself labels like I am a singer, I am a
Yeah.
mastectomy girl, I am, this or that, to focusing on things that I cared about.
Yeah.
And I, like what was at heart the most authentic
Mm,
me that I could be. And I did a lot of work around that. I spent months writing in journals and trying to narrow down who is Eva Moon, even without all the labels, without all the stuff, without the purple hair even. And I got it down to 3 words. And the words aren't labels, they're core needs.
okay.
One is creativity,
Yeah,
and I'm not me if I'm not making something.
sure.
And the second was connection.
Mm, yeah.
If I could create songs or plays or books or anything, but if I don't share them, if I don't connect with other people through my work, then that's not me either. I really need to connect with people, aside from just being a total extrovert.
Yeah.
That's probably part of it. And the third was autonomy,
Mm,
that I need to be able to find my own path in my own way, even if I make mistakes and do things wrong or take 10 years instead of 1 year to accomplish something. I just have to do it my own way. And those 3 things are the heart of who I am, regardless of what my labels, what my exterior is. That if I'm creative, if I'm connecting, and if I'm doing it autonomously in my own way,
yeah.
then I'm myself.
Yeah.
It
Beautiful.
was really hard work to get there,
Oh, for sure.
but
Especially
it's
with
been,
the changes that you went through with your body. That had to
yeah.
quite the journey.
Yeah, and I that led me to my novel, which I want. Can I should I show the
Of
cover of
course,
my
please.
novel?
Yes. Yeah.
I'm dying to tell you how Pinocchio reconciled me to the loss of my breath.
Pinocchio's Guide to the End of the World. That's the name of
Pinocchio's
you
Guide.
got.
That's the title of my novel. It's Pinocchio's Guide to the End of the World,
Yes.
and it's an adventure novel. It's
I
Pinocchio's
love it.
life after he became human and grew up, and it's set in Europe in the years between the world wars during the rise of fascism, which felt like a relevant setting. But aside from, fighting Nazis, Pinocchio's central dilemma is that he was created as a wooden boy
Right.
and he wanted to be human. And then the blue fairy comes along, waves your magic wand, and then he's human.
Right.
Your assumption from the fairy tale is that then it was happily ever after, and he was happy from then on. And I'm thinking, was he?
Right. Well, he
Uh,
wasn't. If I remember watching Pinocchio, he wasn't.
well, after he became human, that's when it ends.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. It's been so long.
That's at the very end, and I'm thinking, well, what happened after that? Did he did it make him happy, or did he feel like he had imposter syndrome? Like on the inside, you still feel like you were before. So inside, he probably still felt like he was this wooden boy, but he suddenly is wearing this human body, this different body from what he had before.
Wow, that's pretty deep.
And how did he cope with that? I don't, he wished to be human, but I don't think humans are that good at predicting what's going to make us happy in the future. I certainly wouldn't have predicted that going through traumatic surgeries would make me happier than I had been before, but in so many ways it has, because, I may be a mutant, but mutants get superpowers.
You're not a mutant. You just had to protect your health,
Well, I have a mutation.
Yeah.
But my mutant superpower was that I got to save my life.
Yes, very true.
Which so many people do not have the chance to do. I feel very fortunate for that.
Oh, hi. It's your host, Deanna Radulescu with Label Free Podcast. I'm here to share an exciting opportunity with you. I've recently partnered with SecureVPN.io. They specialize in protecting your online activity, such as transactions, your online searches, your privacy protection, and it protects you from any data leakage from hackers out there that have access to your information. So please click the link in bio and take advantage of this special opportunity with SecureVPN.io. Again, this is your host, Deanna Radulescu with Label Free Podcast. To live your best life, you must live label free. Didn't even Angelina did that? Did Angelina?
Yeah, in fact, that's how I got started writing for Huffington Post. Was I had my surgeries about a year before she did.
Oh, wow.
And when she went public with her, it was the same mutation as the BRCA. Right. When she went public, there was this huge outcry and people saying just the most horrible
I remember
things. Well, if you had brain cancer, would you cut off your head? Or, just the most terrible things. And I felt like I had to speak up as somebody who had gone through this and had written a musical about it. So I started writing for Huffington Post. Invited me to write a column. Wrote an Ask the Mutant column for them for a number of years, and I got on TV and did my show, to just try and raise awareness. And it was very brave of her to go public like that when she had to know that people were going to just be total assholes.
But I think she also brought awareness to it too.
She did, and I give her a lot of credit for that, for the bravery of being public in her situation and knowing the backlash that it was the good that she did was outweighed. I remember when she came out, like that's why I can put it together, because I remember her making that announcement, and I just remember all the negative feedback she had gotten, and I was just like, well, in my mind, would not judge anyone for their decision to make with their own body, let alone something as serious as that. And I'm like, wow, I'd never even heard of this before. What a great way for her to raise awareness for other women that might have this mutation, and so that she could help save lives. And as dehumanizing, I guess, as it kind of would feel like, I mean, I'm sure for yourself at first, after going through it, it's just like, holy crap, who are you after all that, right? Because we are solely a woman, right? Like, we have these parts with us, and we've experienced our life with all these parts, and then to have them removed has got to be a very surreal experience, and having to rebuild what a woman means to you is got to be quite the process. Yeah. At the time, I had a very close friend, somebody who I had known since we were 12 years old, who was transitioning from male to female.
Oh, wow.
And we had a lot of conversations about, well, how do you know you're a woman? Because she had a different experience from me, but it was, still very deep.
Yeah.
To try and figure out what is it that makes you a woman. And we both kind of came to the conclusion that if we were nothing more than a brain in a jar, we would still know that we were women. So we had to let go. I had to let go of the attachment to specific parts.
Yeah.
And of course, she had to let go of parts as well.
Well, yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, it's a little bit different. That's something that you choose to do. You had to do to save your life.
I
So,
didn't, I mean, I've talked to people with the mutation who have chosen just extreme vigilance instead of surgery, like
okay.
preventive surgery. They just go like every 3 months for a mammogram. This particular mutation, and this is something your listeners should know about with genetic mutations. With the BRCA mutation, the most common, that 3/4 of the breast cancers are what they call triple negative, which don't respond to any hormone
Right.
therapies and metastasize before they can be identified in a mammogram. So
Wow.
for me, I felt like, well, I was booby trapped.
Yeah.
I had to. I felt like I was wearing a suicide vest, and I just, get it off me.
Yeah.
But it still was. I mean, I liked my breasts. I,
Did you have reconstructive surgery?
I did, and they're lovely.
Yeah.
They're numb.
They're
I
not.
don't have
Oh,
any
wow.
feel. Yeah, there's no. They all the nerves went with the original tissue.
Oh, wow.
They're so numb. I remember one point after I was recovering, and I was out in the driveway washing my car, and I was moving around, and suddenly I got stuck. I couldn't move, and I didn't realize what was happening. So
Oh,
I looked down and I realized that the windshield wiper blade, the end of it, was caught on one of my breasts and
oh,
it was
geez.
pulsing me in place. That's how numb they are.
Oh, wow. Well,
But they look great.
yeah, I have a girlfriend that had to have hers removed, and yeah, she's got she's got them replaced as well. Same thing. She says they're numb too. So, wow. So now, where are you today in being, I guess, maybe like a spokesperson, but also in reconciling that part of yourself to your idea of being a woman?
This was 10 years ago, so I'm well along the
Uh,
path. I think the book was sort of the bow on the package
yeah.
because over the course of the book and all of Pinocchio's adventures, he is figuring out how to reconcile his exterior and his interior,
Yeah.
and to know that it's okay to not be entirely one and not entirely the other as long as you're entirely yourself.
Yes, I love that. How profound and beautiful. Ava, where can people find you, connect with you, and purchase your book?
They can find me at evamoon.net,
Mm-hmm.
and my book is on Amazon. It's on all the major booksellers. It really recently won a big librarians award, so it should be in a lot more local libraries.
Cool.
Um, and if someone wants to get it from the library and the library doesn't have it, they can just request it. And most libraries are really good about ordering books. Bookstores too will order in books, but Amazon is primarily where you'll find it.
Put her links in the show notes. If you connect with Ava today and you think someone could benefit from reading her book, or if you yourself wants to read her book, go ahead and click the links below. Go check her out and go purchase the book on Amazon or your favorite bookstore. Ava, this is the part of the show where I like to ask for last words of wisdom or advice. What would you like to leave with us today?
I'll tell you. Do we have time for a very, very
Yeah, of
short
course.
story?
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
Suppose you're walking down the hallway with your coffee cup there, and someone jostles your arm, and you spill your coffee. And if I asked you, why did you spill your coffee? What would you say?
Someone hit my arm.
What if you thought of it this way, that you spilled coffee because coffee was in your cup? If there had been tea in your cup, you would have spilled tea. And as we go through our lives, we're constantly filling our cups with the things that we pay attention to and we focus on. And life is going to jostle you. It's guaranteed. No one gets through without being bumped in
Oh,
some
yeah.
way or another. I had a pretty big bump, but I was fortunate that in my entire life and growing up in a family that loved to laugh, I had been filling my cup with laughter and humor and connection and creativity. So that's what spilled out when life jostled me.
I love that. That was beautiful. Thank you for sharing that story. Yes, be careful. Be careful what you fill your cup up with.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you can do that in such small ways. Someone cuts you off in traffic. You say, okay, they're on their own journey. I don't know what happened to them
Oh,
to
yeah.
make them do that. I don't need to fill my cup with rage
No.
about
Oh,
someone
yeah.
else's behavior.
Yeah, no, I used to get angry when people would drive, cut me off. Or I don't anymore. I'm just like, okay, it's not worth my energy. Well, Ava, thank you so much for your courage to talk about what you've been through, even though it's been 10 years ago. I think there's women out there that are going to feel encouraged by hearing your story. Perhaps they're in the midst of going through that. Perhaps they're being faced with a decision to make some, aggressive changes.
Yeah, and if there's anyone out there who is, they're at the beginning of this particular journey, they've just discovered they have the BRCA mutation or are afraid that they might, there's a contact form on my website. Just reach out to me. I love to talk to people.
Excellent. Thank you for that. Well, that was beautiful. On that note, thank you, Ava, for sharing your story. It was such a pleasure.
Sure.
Look forward to reading your book. I think I'm going to grab that book and read it.
Awesome. Let me know what you think of it.
I will. You guys, this is your host, Deanna Radulescu, Label Free Podcast. To live your best life, you must live label free. As always, don't forget to subscribe, follow, rate, review, comment, share, all those good things. And I'll be back soon with more dynamic guests.